Miami refused to give up versus Memphis on Thursday in a great game that was back and forth and showed just how much the Heat have improved. But a Ja Morant game winner at the buzzer ends Miami's winning streak. We'll break down the game and what it means for the playoff push on tonight's Locked On Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, whether you're tuning in on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed media members who cover this team every day. For daily Heat content, click that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you're following us on your podcast app. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Have a great show for you today. We're breaking down the Heat's loss to the Grizzlies and some of the positive takeaways despite the loss, including more evidence of Bam and Herro's growth. But we're going to start today's episode with the end of this game, recording this just after the Heat's loss to the Grizzlies. This one came down to the last second. Ja Morant hit the game winner. 6-game win streak comes to an end for Miami. A really entertaining game. 19 lead changes in this one. I thought the Heat played really well despite the loss. But I didn't love how they defended Ja, if I'm being honest, on that final shot. So Ja Morant brings the ball up. Davion Mitchell is guarding him. Where is on Santi Aldama? Aldama sets a screen at like 35 feet out. And the Heat just sort of give up the switch with 5 seconds left. And I thought they just gave it up too easily. And Kel'el ends up on an island with Ja Morant right there on the perimeter. Morant goes to work, and I don't know, as soon as Ware ended up on that island, I was like, oh, it's over. Like, Morant's going to drive by him, and he's going to get this shot. And I actually thought Ware's defense was pretty good, but, Morant, we'll discuss whether or not, it was a push-off or not. People, we got a lot of comments saying that it was, but he created the space that he needed against Ware and made the shot. That's the game. I wish that they wouldn't have given up on that switch so easily. And then once you did, send more help, scram help, do something to try to get the ball out of Ja Morant's hands because you know that he wants to take that shot. Right. Yeah, I just didn't love how they left Ware alone on that.
I think that's where it boils down to. I mean, you can nitpick at what Morant did to get the shot off, et cetera, but I think ultimately if the Heat want to find a way to win, and look, I mean, the game was tied at that point, so It would have gone into overtime. Who knows how it would have played out at that point, although Miami did have the crowd, a little momentum, but they were also playing on the second night of a back-to-back and facing some fatigue themselves. I also think that, to your point, Miami could have done a lot better. And you're absolutely right. Morant's going to take that shot. Nobody else is. He's not dishing that off to Aldama. He's not dishing that off to anybody else that's out on the floor with him. He's taking that shot 100%. So sending the double doesn't leave anybody open. As good a playmaker as Morant could be in those situations, he wants to be the guy who hits the game winner. And so if you double him, you make that a lot more difficult for him to get that shot. If you have a big, like Ware, and he's going to have to at least not necessarily drop, but he's going to give up some space. He's not quick enough, as good as Ware is as a defender. He's not quick enough yet to be able to really shade Morant.
No, and guys like Morant, that's a step back every time in today's NBA. You step back in the little mid-range, you get all the space you need. Yeah.
And if you have Mitchell there, at least you have a double, and maybe he I don't know, might affect the shot a little bit, might body him a little bit.
Yeah,
it would have
more
created
physical,
a little bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, maybe knocks the ball away or something. I hate when teams just, and the Heat don't usually do this, which is why it was so weird. No. And Spo actually had a quote about it. Not a lot of time, but it's like I hate when teams just give up the switch that easily. It's like, oh, you want the switch? Here you go. They was 35 feet away from the basket, and like you said, it was a tie game. Who cares whether or not it's a 2 or a 3? You're not worried about going under the screen or over the screen. It's just don't give up the switch so easily. And I was really surprised that they did that. And I wonder, between Davion Mitchell and Kel'el Ware being involved in that play, I don't want to say it was Davion's fault, but he's new. And that might be a symptom of, hey, we're new here and we're just not really sure how we do this. But Ware's a rookie. He's new here too. So it's like, oh, we don't do that. So Ja Morant kind of got the two new guys relatively in that play and took advantage of maybe a little bit of inexperience there. But Eric Spoelstra after the game says, he was asked about it. He said, we're at our best when we're active. We're not just leaving a guy on an island. He said that they were okay with leaving Kel'el on the perimeter, but just not on an island like that. And so that leads me to think that that's not what Eric Spoelstra wanted on that final play. I think he probably wanted a little bit more. And when he uses the word aggression, I'm thinking, hey, when Santi Aldama comes over to try to get the Ja Morant switched onto Ware, he probably wanted Davion to be a little bit more aggressive in that moment and either trap or show or hedge or something a little bit that wasn't just, oh, here you go, here's the switch you wanted, walk into the game winner.
And given the limited amount of time, too, I'm a little surprised that they had Ware and Aldama. I mean, I know that's basically had been all game, but you could have put Ware, Jaren Jackson Jr. and have Bam at the head there where he would have been able to make that decision. So if you're leaving anybody on an island and you're getting that switch.
Well, they probably would have, they probably would have then just had Jaren Jackson set the screen. They probably wanted Ware in the action. Ja Morant said there was a quote from Ja after the game. He said, "We're just going away from Davion Mitchell and Bam Adebayo." So whoever those guys were on, they were going to try to get those guys switched off of them.
Fair enough. So, I mean, a miscommunication there, but I don't think it takes anything away from what Miami's accomplished either. I know it's disappointing, but you don't want to use the back-to-back as an excuse or anything like that. But I think Spo mentioned that in his post-game presser too, saying that a couple of weeks ago during the losing streak, this would have been a double digit or more, and it might have even been a blowout. I think that 100%. Like, I really think that this shows a lot of growth for this team because they were able to contend the way they were. Not only did they have great individual performances, but as a team, being able to bounce back to take the punches that Morant was throwing. And Morant, when he's engaged the way he was in the second half, a top 10 player. Right? And that's hard to stop, if not impossible. And despite him going on those scoring benches, Tyler Herro answered, Bam answered, a number of players found ways to step up, and they took those punches and delivered a few of their own. And I don't have any problem with the way it played out. Like when we had Davion on the show a couple nights ago, he told us that a lot of those games were, close games, close losses, unfortunately, but at least you could take those and move on. This team will move on from. I think they've built up enough goodwill and enough familiarity with what they were able to do. It showed tonight in the loss, and I think they'll find a way to continue to bounce back and stretch out some wins over the last 5 games of the season.
Milwaukee Saturday night. I don't know. Giannis is putting up Oscar Robertson numbers right now. I don't know what's going on, but it's not. It's going to be a tough game too, even with Damian Lillard out for Milwaukee. But you kind of were getting at it there. The 6-game win streak comes to an end there. It was kind of fun to bat the idea around of, hey, follow a 10-game losing streak with a 10-game win streak to finish out the season. The Heat in this game take their 42nd loss of the season, so it means it's going to be their first a sub 500 season since 2018-2019. But I don't feel any different about this team. It would have been cool to get the win and keep the win streak alive, but just qualitatively about what kind of zooming out and what is this team and what do we think about it, this doesn't change anything, right? Ja Morant hit a really nice shot. They botched maybe the end defensive possession, which isn't awesome, but overall, I mean, you had Bam coming out guns blazing. I texted you, man. I love the effort that guy plays with. Second night of back-to-back, all that stuff. He doesn't care. He set the tone for the team right away. He said, we're not rolling over in this game. In fact, we're going to try our darnest to win this thing. And then Tyler Herro just stepping up in the end and being used in such a myriad of ways. And we'll talk about him a little bit more specifically here in a second. But I don't think this changes the way that I feel about this team. I think what they've been, they're not a team that's going to, they're not a contending team. I'm not trying to say that. They're also not a team that can lose 10 games in a row. They're better than that. I thought the statement went over Boston. This doesn't change that. So I still feel pretty good about what this team is and, more importantly, can be. But did this loss change the way you felt about the 6-game win streak?
No. I think we're both pretty aware of what this team is. So, they've underachieved. The losing streak really took them out of any idea, not necessarily of contention, but even of being flirting with maybe home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs or being one of those teams that could contend for the 6th seed or anything like that. That ship has sailed, obviously. It's now just about trying to make the most of the play-in tournament and stay in for as long as you can. That being the case, I still like their chances of making games competitive. I don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, the danger of a play-in tournament is you could be in a win or lose situation, or win or go home type situation. It's every game is a game 7, and so it makes things a lot more difficult for a team that has struggled at times. And I think the win streak did showcase that this group is better, that they're a lot more familiar with each other and how to play those roles. And you've seen some excellent performances from a number of players. Like Pelle Larsson was still good tonight. I think Kel'el has figured out what he is as a player as a rookie. Tyler was great. Bam was sensational. I mean, a lot of nice things that you can continue to build up. Look, they had some players that had some subpar performances. So
can we talk about the build-ons? I'm sorry to cut you off, but like the build-on part of that, that's what this is all about. Like this, they're not winning the championship. So like, really, who cares? About playing, make it to the playoffs, losing the first, whatever. They're in the discovery phase of whatever the post Jimmy Butler era is, and it's just nice to know that during the discovery phase, they haven't discovered that they stink like that 10-game losing streak may have suggested. That they're better than what that is, and this is a team that once it's figured out how they want to play, can be competitive, and that's at least a foundation that you could build on, and we'll see how they go. But look. The Heat did lose the game. Doesn't mean that it was a bad performance. We mentioned Tyler and Bam. Sensational, I thought, both of them in this game. Tyler Herro, in particular, showed more evidence of his growth into a star. We're going to talk about that more next year on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings time has snuck up on us again. If you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, I know I am. Well, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun. Sometimes you need a little boost to power through, whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament or a Heat game, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or maybe just trying to keep up with your busy day. 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up wherever you need it. Listen, we talk about this all the time. We're staying up late watching tournament games, NBA games. Sometimes you just need a little boost. 5 Hour Energy, this certainly helps keep me up the next day. With longer days, you love going outside for a hike or a run, and Tropical Burst is certainly a go-to for a quick boost. And whether you're at a game or traveling, 5 Hour Energy is easy to grab, and it keeps you feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 12-pack delivered right to your door. If you need one now, well, grab 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. You've seen them there. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. Today's show is also brought to you by Wayfair. Spring is here, and that means it's home project season. Whether you're refreshing a room or tackling a full renovation, Wayfair is the best kept secret for all things home improvement. From small updates like stylish cabinet hardware to major upgrades like new vanities, sinks, outdoor lighting, whatever you're looking for, Wayfair has quality products for every budget. Their free and fast shipping make it easy. No hauling heavy items from the store. I love that they have top brands like GE and Moen at great prices, and shopping is seamless. You can find exactly what you need to fit your space and style. Wayfair makes home improvement easy. Get started now at wayfair.com. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Your favorite NBA team has a free daily newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Heat newsletter, one stop for ultimate Heat and league coverage with local analysis and amazing writing from Katie Heindel, Mike Shearer, and Locked On fantasy basketball tips from Josh Lloyd. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. So a quick rundown of tonight's events. So Bam starts the game on a 9-0 run. He has that great block on Jaren Jackson Jr. And David, just jump in whenever you want if you have any observations on this stuff. But that block on Jaren Jackson Jr. to start the game, that was great. Bam really takes this matchup in particular. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Miles Turner, Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe Jared Allen. I'm trying to think. Those are the three that really stand out to me in terms of guys that Bam really likes to show up. Why?
Gobert.
Because they're content. Yeah,
That's
Gobert also.
Everybody. It's literally everybody.
They're considered, the defensive player specialists or big men, and Bam likes the challenge. I think Bam likes to show off his versatility, and he brings a little extra level of oomph when he goes into these matchups, and that was certainly on display tonight early on.
So the Heat come out to that lead early on. The Grizzlies, they finally start making a few threes. They take the lead in the second quarter, and we're off, right? I said earlier, 19 lead changes, and it kind of just goes that way. After that, the Heat go into halftime up one. Ja Morant quiet in the first quarter, comes out in the third quarter, 16 points in the third quarter. He comes alive. He starts with the gun motions again, man. And I'm not here. I don't want to debate like whether or not you should or shouldn't be able to do all that and all this stuff, whatever that means. But like, he just got the warning from Adam Silver to be like, to basically cool it on it. And he comes out and does it twice in this game, obviously trying to make a statement. And I don't know. Remember, like, obviously he missed a bunch of the season because of the gun charges and all that kind of stuff. And then he goes on that interview with Jalen Rose and basically blames everybody except himself. And it's just like, dude, like, this guy just doesn't really get it. I'm not saying that everybody's got to fall in line. It's not necessarily that, but this is your job, dude. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know that he was doing it purposely. I think that's giving him a little too much credit. Like, he's not trying to show up Adam Silver in the NBA because guess what? You're going to lose that battle
I think
unless your
that's
name is
exactly what
LeBron
he's
James.
doing.
No, I don't think it. I don't think he can help himself. I really don't. I think he's
It's
just.
the only celebration he could think of.
I think it's the one he's been doing for so long that he feels so that much more comfortable doing it, and that when he's caught up in the moment, like remember when we talked to Duncan about it, like his, after a big shot or something like that, like he's not a guy who typically talks trash, but sometimes you just get caught up in the moment. You say something and you say what you're most comfortable. And in terms of what Morant does, well, it's the gun salute thing, and so I don't know, it's just a little ridiculous. I didn't realize it was going to be such a problem, and I guess even led to some boos from the Kaseya Center audience there.
Yeah.
I alluded to it later on in the post-game interview with Taylor Rooks of TNT, saying that the boos kind of helped him, helped motivate him. Don't boo people. They don't boo. Yeah,
No,
because if you're going to
boom. No, wait a minute. I thought Heat fans were the worst and that they didn't show up and they didn't boo and they cheered Jimmy Butler. I thought all this stuff with the Heat fans. I thought that they were just casuals. No way. Boo them. 100%. The Heat crowd affected this guy. Didn't work out, but
no, worked out.
They got to him.
The exact opposite.
That's
I
fine.
learned my
I'm
lesson
okay. Make an impact.
a long time ago. I probably got like the best seats I've ever had as a fan years and years ago when Paul Pierce was coming. This was, I don't even remember what year it was. And I remember sitting in there and yelling consistently amongst the rich snobs that were in like the first couple of rows of the game, yelling overrated all the time because I just hated Paul Pierce as much as I did. And he wound up lighting the team up later on. I don't know
Good for you.
if that had any impact or not. I'd like to think it didn't, but you know what? At the same time, I think I learned my lesson. Don't boo people.
So also in that third quarter when Ja Morant had 16 points, guess who? Tyler Herro, 19 points in that third quarter. Then Morant had 11 points in the fourth quarter. Tyler Herro had 8 points in the fourth quarter. This game, as I mentioned, 19 lead changes. This all kind of sets up the final moment. So Davion Mitchell pulls up for a three-pointer. That gives the Heat a 1-point lead with about 2 minutes to go. Then Jaren Jackson Jr. hits a three-pointer in the corner. That gives Memphis a 2-point lead. At that point, Bam blocks Morant. Great rotation, weak side block to keep it a 2-point game with 22 seconds to go. Herro hits the floater with 14 seconds to tie the game at 108, and then Morant hits that game winner. I want to get to the Tyler Herro part of this here. So he goes toe-to-toe with Ja Morant. 35 points for Tyler Herro, 30 points for Ja Morant. A clutch shot to tie the game for Tyler Herro, a clutch shot game winner for Ja Morant. To go back to Herro's quote about wanting to be in the same conversation as guys like Ja Morant, Trae Young, Luka Doncic. He's not in the conversation with Luka. There's no question he's been in the same conversation as Ja and Trae Young, at least this season. And I said this after they beat the Hawks and he outplayed Trae Young. And I kind of said it sort of half jokingly, right? Like facetiously, kind of just trying to bring up that quote because I was pretty hyped after the win. But he was an all-star this year. And he went, like, if Ja Morant doesn't hit that shot, it's Tyler Herro who's the hero of this game, right? And so he went toe-to-toe with a guy who you just said, on a good night, could be one of the 10 best players in the league.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point. I think the story is obviously going to be Morant's game winner, but it's kind of obfuscating a phenomenal performance from Tyler. Like, and I love the way the broadcast was talking about him because he's been so good and the way he's just switched up his versatility. There was a couple plays there where he just open court and he just picks his spots, finds the seams in the defense, and is able to cruise to what looked like easy layups. His timing on those shots, again, drawing fouls, 7 of 7 at the line tonight. He's been so good. I don't know what else to say about it. I know at some point in the offseason we'll get that ESPN and the Ringer top 100 list and everything else like that, but I think he's getting pretty close to flirting with top 40 to top 30 player, right? I mean,
Well, the Ringer just put
All-Star.
theirs out a couple weeks ago. Keep going. I'll look it up.
I know, no, they keep updating it and stuff like that, but I think, obviously as an All-Star, that the argument could be, well, he's a top 24-ish player. That's not the reality, because you have guys that are injured, or maybe they just haven't been able to meet the minimum number of games as a requirement. You could look at
they've got Herro at 45.
That feels a little low. A little low.
I think he'll probably move up after this strong finish here. You mentioned his ability to kind of pick his spots and getting through the defense. I mean, there was one play in the third quarter when he was going off where he gets they were doing a really good job, Jalen Wells specifically, who's awesome as a rookie, running him off the line, giving him chase, denying him the ball and all this stuff. But Tyler Herro, they come out in that third quarter, and I'm just thinking this entire game, when Zach Edey is in the game, especially in the first half, when Zach Edey is in the game, they need somebody on the ball to just attack him and drop. And it just felt like they didn't have that for the entire first half. And then they come out at halftime and they put Tyler Herro on the ball, have Ware set the screen for him, high screen and roll, and attack Edey and drop. And they went to it. And then Herro gets a little bit of rhythm, and they keep doing it, even when Jaren Jackson Jr. is in there at the 5, which is their better defensive alignment for Memphis, and Edey is on the bench. He just kept doing it. And there was that one play in the third quarter where it was actually Jackson at center. Herro gets run off the line, but puts the defender on his hip and then finds his space just outside of where Jackson is in sort of a semi-drop. He's so patient with it. And he's using his body, and he gets like this wide stance when he gets into the paint, and he almost plays bigger than he is when he gets into that range, like around 10, 12 feet away from the basket. And that's crazy. And he's got that float game down. He's had it down for a couple of years now. I just think that his patience, his pace that he's playing with, it's unreal. And the awareness to know how to pick his spots. I mean, the guy's basketball IQ he's taken such a leap in every single way. I feel like we're just gushing over Tyler Herro, but I know that I've been the biggest Tyler Herro, truther, defender, apologist, whatever. I don't think I've ever seen this version of Tyler Herro coming. This is a complete 3-level offensive scorer.
Yeah.
And playmaker and passer. I mean, he was doing all of it.
He's improved in every facet of his game. And I think he's found a way, despite what the physical shortcomings were. I mean, we've referred to it a number of times. That piece by Zach Lowe when he was with ESPN talking about that Tyler is always going to be a player that's difficult to gauge in terms of what their future or what their ceiling is going to be, because there are built-in limitations to what he can do physically, but he's put on strength. He's figured out the timing, and we keep going back to it, but I think that his ability to draw fouls is certainly evidence of that. But I'll go back even further after his rookie season in the midst of the pandemic and talking to his trader down here in South Florida and him telling me that he was going to be a multi-time All-Star at that point in time. He seems extremely prescient because not only has he achieved it once, but it seems likely that he'll be able to do it again. He can't put these kind of numbers. I would expect
he's now that guy, right? He's going to be on the list of guys people consider.
He's not going to take his foot off the gas. He's 24. He's going to continue to get better. He's going to do the work because that's how much he believes in himself. And
he's already better than what he was when he got voted as an All-Star. Right?
You could say that. You absolutely could say that. He is shown incredible flashes over the last few games during the 6-game win streak, and even in tonight's loss to Memphis, where he is showing things that he did not show earlier on in the season. And I would agree with that assessment.
Well, we're going to take a look at the standings and what this loss means for the Heat's chances of making the playoffs. Hint, it's not great, but also hint, the tank might be back on. We'll talk about it next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Open Phone. Are you running a small business? Well, that means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where Open Phone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few cups of coffee, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. Open Phone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, Open Phone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's OpenPhone.com/LockedOnNBA for 20% off for 6 months. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. And if you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. We'll be right back.
Thanks again for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. For the everydayers, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. Best way to support the show. Also follow us on your favorite podcast app. Quick look at the standings before we get to some listener questions here. So Heat lose, Magic win tonight. We're talking about teams in the play-in mix here. So the Heat, they're 2 losses back of the Hawks for that 8th seed now. So the Heat have 42 losses. Atlanta has 40 losses. I just look at the losses because the Heat have 5 games to go. The Hawks have 6 games to go. So not a lot of time. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's the Heat lose 1 game. The Hawks win 1 game over the weekend, and this thing's pretty much over in terms of Miami's ability to climb up into that 7-8 spot. Orlando also won, so they're also 2 losses ahead. Maybe they fall back, but they've been actually playing pretty well lately. Paolo and Franz have been playing really well lately, so I don't know if that's going to happen here. But in terms of trying to climb back up into that 7-8 range where you have to have 2 chances to win 1 game and make the playoffs, in that 9-10 matchup in the play-in tournament, you have to win back-to-back games to get the 8th seed and make the postseason. So that part there is tough. But the other thing that the Heat have to be cognizant of is the Chicago Bulls are still right there on their heels. Both the Heat and the Bulls are 6-4 in their last 10 games. The Bulls have been playing well while the Heat have been playing well. Miami's 35-42, Chicago's 34-42. They're just a half game back. So there's still a chance Miami drops the game Saturday in Milwaukee, but by the start of next week, we can talk about Miami back in that 10 spot.
Yeah. They've got to win out. And I think they can. But I also, regardless of what happens in the play-in tournament or the playoffs, if you're able to get past that, I just think what we've seen over the 6-game win streak and what we saw tonight against Memphis, you just want to continue to work and get better because this team does not want to tank. They're not throwing games. They just had a hard time adjusting and figuring things out. And now that they've shown real improvement. And I think, they faced some easy teams, obviously, during that 6-game win streak, but they also faced some tough competition, despite the fact that some of those teams were shorthanded. No Steph Curry, no Kristaps Porzingis, et cetera, whatever. Like, those are quality wins, and you can point to those and say, we're a better team than we were 2 weeks before this. And I think you want to continue to improve as the season winds down, and the way you do that is by beating every opponent you face, Milwaukee, et cetera.
So it's Milwaukee.
What's the rest of the schedule? Yeah,
it's Milwaukee at home Saturday, Monday against the air quotes 76ers, the Quentin Grimes and the Grimettes. Then April 9th in Chicago. That might be the game, man. Like, that's the most important game left on the schedule. And then you finish the year April 11th in New Orleans, and then last game of the season Sunday, April 13th at home against the Wizards. So you probably have to win out. If they win out, they probably make the 7-8 match. They probably get the 8th spot in that 7-8 game.
Yeah, I think so.
Unless Atlanta wins out, which is possible, but I don't see them doing that.
No, I don't. I don't think they're playing as well. I don't think they're as dynamic at this point.
Schedule, I believe, too.
Yeah.
So let's look at the other side of this, though. Miami, 11th best odds in the lottery right now. 9.4% chance at a top 4 pick, a 2% chance at number 1 overall. They, even after this win streak, probably can't get back to the 8th best odds, which is where they were during that 10-game losing streak. But they can still catch Portland at 9, if that's something that people are interested in. Just pointing it out. Those are just the facts, people.
That ship has sailed. I really look. As much as we were caught off guard by the 10. I know,
Game
but
ahead.
as much as we were caught off guard by the 10-game losing streak, I think the 6-game winning streak is closer to who we expected this team to be, and I think they're going to continue to win games. The idea of improving their lottery odds just don't. I don't think
They might not have to be terrible though. Portland's playing well. Chicago's playing well. Both of these teams are actively
So what if
trying
they
to
go
win games
3-2?
alongside Miami.
They go
Yeah,
3-2
if
over the next 5,
and those
that's
other
enough.
teams go 4-1 or 5-1, however many games they have left. That could, they're that close. It doesn't take something
There you
crazy.
go.
A couple listener questions before we get out of here. Drew writes in, what did Ja Morant do for the game winner? A, push off, B, travel, or C, all of the above? Might have been a little bit of a push off there.
I'm gonna go with C.
Did he travel?
Not,
He got that
I think
gather
that
step,
the push off. Yeah,
step back.
I'm sorry. I know.
Anymore.
I guess I know legally maybe, or they're not going to call it. I mean, I suppose, but I think technically it's still a travel. But it's just it was that sidestep, whatever. And the push off certainly. Like I mean, Ware was flying back. He's not the strongest player on the court, but I don't think Morant at 150 pounds soaking wet is necessarily getting that space without an extra little shove in there. And
Michael Jordan proved against the Jazz that they never call that though.
Yeah,
sorry, they're just never going to call it in that position. The Heat put them in a tough spot by letting Ware on that.
Yeah, I want a point that we didn't get to earlier, and I wanted to make it should never have boiled down to the Morant shot. Like as good as Bam was, there were a lot of shots there that in the fourth quarter in particular that he probably could have made. A couple floaters in the lane, and look, Alec Burks struggled with his 3-point shot. Kyle Anderson struggled with his shooting. Like if you get a bucket here and there from a couple other players, you win, and you win convincingly, and that's all that matters. And
I guess
won 7 games.
The Grizzlies could say the same thing about Desmond Bane in this game, though.
Sure, I guess.
Josh writes in, what does it mean to be called a pigeon? Asking for a rook, I know, and support. A little background on this. Ja Morant talking with Taylor Rooks at the end of the game was asked about going off in the second half, and he said basically says I had a pigeon on me, and so he went to work. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I knew what a pigeon was, but I looked it up on the old internet, and what I found on Urban Dictionary is that it's essentially somebody who's weak or a victim. And so I think he was referring to either Pelle Larsson, who was on him for a lot of the game, or was he talking about Kel'el Ware at the very end on that last possession? Either way, shots fired, I suppose. No pun intended there.
Yeah, no, I mean, you hit the game winner. I guess you can afford to talk a little smack.
That's true.
Yeah, so I guess that's basically what it boils down to. I'm not sure I like it, but we'll see.
I'm telling you, I used to be a huge Ja Morant fan. Like I still love watching that guy play. But some of the stuff, dude, like, ugh, I don't know. Even though if he was in a Heat uniform next season, I'd be like, this guy's awesome. Drew writes in, even though it was a heartbreaking loss, did the playoff atmosphere of this game help prepare Ware and Larsson for the play-in and or playoff series? I think absolutely. And Eric Spoelstra talked about this after the game, about how it had that atmosphere. I think losing those 10 games in a row and then being forced to have your back up against the wall, so to speak, even though it never was going to be the case where Miami was going to miss the playoffs altogether, or even the play-in altogether. But I do think all of this stuff has helped both of those guys quite a bit. And that's why I can pretty much guess what you're going to say, David, is this is why you don't tank. It's because you want to build stuff like this.
Who, me? No, I'm such an advocate of tanking. Yeah. So no, I agree. Yeah, I think it's you want to be tested. It's good that they're getting these opportunities. I think it's helped them both and to figure out their role, certainly. And I'm curious to see how they respond if they are able to get out of the play-in tournament, how they play in their first taste of the playoffs and how teams scheme and how they'll be facing a better opponent, no doubt. So it's going to be a very interesting test for both of them, and how they respond, I think, really will go a long way towards perhaps stoking a lot of the Heat fans, passion about where these players are and what they can be in the future.
Exciting stuff.
It is.
5 more games to go. Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on your favorite podcast app.